Okay, today we're going to be talking about writing inequalities. So take some time to solve for the warm-up. Just some quick reminders. Before you start, separate your equation, draw your line. In order to isolate the variable, which means get the letter by itself, you have to do inverse operation. So you're doing the opposite of what they're doing. The inverse of multiplying is dividing, dividing is multiplying, adding is subtracting, subtracting is adding. Our lesson objective: I can write a one variable two-step equation and inequality to represent constraints or conditions within problems. Our language objective: I can write to explain the difference between an inequality and equation using a sentence stem and a think, pair, share. Just a quick preview before we get started. Think of the word inequality. What does it mean in the real world? Also think about it, what it means in the context of classes you're currently taking. So where have you heard the word inequality? And in the real world, what does inequality mean? Okay, so on your notes page, let's go ahead and fill out the blanks. An inequality compares two values. So you're comparing one side to the other side. In inequalities, we can show that one value is greater than, less than, or equal to another value. Inequalities yield more than one solution. So over here, we're going to go ahead and do two of these together. You can do the other two on your own. It says 4 times a number is less than 16. So 4 times a number. We don't know what that number is, so that's going to be the x. We know that we're multiplying by 4, so that's 4x. Now, this is what I want to focus on today. Less than. So this is my less than symbol, 16. Another one here. H is at no more than. So again, less than or equal to 56. Go ahead and work on the next two. K is greater than 9, and 36 is at least 1/2 a number. Remember, if it says a number, that's what your letter is going to be. We don't know what that number is. You have 1/2, so make sure you write it down. You have your other number, and this right here is your sign. Same here. This is your sign, greater than, and these are the two things that you're comparing. Let's go ahead and do this one together. Which situation is represented by this inequality? So let's go ahead and analyze this first before we get started. It's telling us that this is less than or equal to. So this is the bigger side. This is the smaller side. 12 has my variable, so this is the one that's going to have the words per, each, or every. And this other number, this constant, is only going to happen once. The first one says, Mario has 12 buttons in his collection. He will collect 24 buttons every year. Mario collects buttons for X years. For what value of K will Mario have at least 120 buttons? So, over here, every year is K. The number that's talking about is 29. We can compare it to our inequality at the top. We can cancel that out. The next one says, Mario has 29 buttons in his collection. He will collect 12 buttons every year. So far, that's correct. Mario collects buttons for K years. For what value of K will Mario have at least 120? I think they made a mistake here. This should be, I'm guessing, 120. This one only happens once. He already has that. So far, that's matching what we have. Now let's look at some keywords. For our inequality, we know that what he's collecting has to be bigger than 120 or the same. When we have the word at least, that's exactly what that means. We want 120 or more. Let's check the next one. He has 120 buttons in his collection. So far, that's true. That's what he begins with. Now, he collects 12 buttons every year. Again, so far, that's still true. Mario collects buttons for K years. What is the value of K? For what value of K will Mario have at most? 120 buttons. Now, this is my keyword, at most. When we have at most, that is my limit. I have to have 120 or less. That's not what I have up here, so I can cancel that out. The next one says Mario has 12 buttons in his collection. Again, that only happens once, and when we look up here, that's not the number that happens once. So we can cancel that out. Go ahead and do the same thing that we just did for this question. If you need to go look back and rewatch the video, go ahead and do so. Now for our think, pair, share, I just want you to write out the sentence stems. How is the process of writing an inequality similar or different from the process of writing an equation? So for the first one, tell me one way that they're the same. For the second one, tell me one way that they're different. So now let's go ahead and do this one. The 7th grade students need to raise at least $5,000 for their class trip. They were given $850 by local businesses for their trip, but they have to raise the rest. If there are 83 students, how much does each student need to raise? Write an inequality to best represent the situation above. So this is my question. How many does each student need to raise? Each student tells me that the X is going to go with the number of students. I'm going to circle my numbers, and I'm going to look at my keywords. So 83 is talking about students. They were already given $850, and they have to raise at least $5,000. So again, since we already know it says each student, we can automatically put the 83 right here. At least is my keyword. Oh, let me change that to a highlighter. To my inequality. Now, when I write this down, if you're saying at least, that is your minimum. You want 5,000 or more. Now, if they were already given something, that's a positive number. You can add that to the 5,000. They were given $850. That is my inequality. So again, look for your keywords. At least, at most, minimum, maximum, more than, less than, no more than, no less than. If they have the no in front of the more or the less, you're also going to add the line at the bottom to show that it's also equal. You can get that number, or you can get a number that's bigger or smaller than that. Go ahead and try the same thing with this one. Just to help you guys out a little bit, it's always going to be a number, X, plus or minus, depending on what they have, and then your inequality symbol, then your other number. Usually, this is your total. Look for the word per, each, or every. That's the number that goes right here. Again, today we're going to focus on our inequality symbols. So it's going to be one of these four. Go ahead, start your independent practice when you're finished with your notes. Open up Google Classroom. It should be the formative for today. Now, a quick exit ticket. Veronica has at most $4 to spend on snacks. She buys a bag of Takis for $3.75 and drinks for her friends for $4 each. Write an inequality that represents the following scenario. So again, you don't have to write it on the sticky note. Just go ahead and write it at the bottom of your notes. When you're done with your notes, put them in your folder. Again, underline your question, circle important numbers, and box in your keywords before you get started with writing your inequality.